So this is let's watch someone play. That's what I would call it. Let's watch someone play. I'm not even playing the game. Just watching someone play a game. That's how lazy I am. Plus it gives me more of a chance to practice speaking, because whenever I do a let's play normally I run out of things to say, or I focus too much on speaking, so much on speaking that I don't ever play the game. And like make progress in the game, and that's annoying to people. And also, or I end up focusing too hard on the game and end up not talking at all, which is also troublesome. I don't quite know what I'm doing, and I'm trying to understand what my voice means to me, and how to even do this. But that's okay. We can try and understand it together. That's the best way to figure out Let's Playing, to understand it all together. And there's nothing else left in my brain but this thing that is happening right now. This game is kind of distracting. I can't focus on the sound of my voice, so I'm gonna turn the volume down. Oh man, what am I getting myself into? Why did I even do this? Is there anything good that I can say right now? Or am I just being dumb? You know, I honestly don't know. I'm trying to figure out that thing right now. Oh man, I think my brothers and sisters played the PlayStation version of this game. It has a very similar look to it, or maybe a similar game on PlayStation. Never played this on the N64 though, so watching the Let's Play ought to be somewhat interesting, I guess. It seems like the volume of this microphone is like very close to clipping every single time I speak. I bet if I yelled too loudly it would definitely clip. Yes, this looks very familiar. I've never played it, but I remember watching my brothers and sisters play it a long time ago. Because, you know, we would go to the video game store and buy whatever's the cheapest used video games, and Donald Duck was one of them. Yep. Now what? I'm attempting to understand how my voice works, and I'm trying to make it sound less scraggly, because if it sounds scraggly, it doesn't sound good. You know, it sounds like low quality work, and I would prefer for it not to sound low quality. So I am watching this long play and practicing speaking with my voice. It has a pretty high frame rate actually. I wonder if it's 60 frames per second that it was recorded at. That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting to know. So I guess this is the era when everybody just couldn't quite figure out how to make a 3D platformer. They were so used to having like one direction that you go and one direction that you go in the opposite direction with the 2D platformer, that they just created this cavern, this corridor, this hallway, if you will, that you walk through. Crash Bandicoot did it. This did it. I'm pretty sure there's other games that did it. It's because they couldn't figure out a way to make progression feel like progression. And it wasn't until Super Mario 64 came out they figured out that you didn't have to think of progression in the same way. Well, I mean, like, you could actually have, like, collectathons and stuff. But even beyond that, someone figured out, like, how to do a Call of Duty game or whatever and make it feel a little less like you're walking down a corridor. You know, it guides you in the right direction that you're supposed to go without you feeling like you're going exactly where it wants you to go, you know. A little bit, games nowadays are a little bit more subtle about it, but they still guide you in a direction. in a lot of cases, at least the story-filled games. So, yeah. That's something to say about games. I am, not too good at doing this, but I can hear the feedback from the microphone. So, I can hear the scraggliness of my voice, and it's not so pleasant, but I need to work on that. So, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I don't know how long I'm gonna do this. Maybe I'll do it for the entire length of this long play, which is about an hour and 15 minutes. Or maybe I'll give up like I often do when I attempt to do these things. I often give up. I'm talking very slowly and not in a natural way because I'm trying to figure out how to talk loudly. In order to talk loudly, you have to use your diaphragm rather than using your, just like expelling the air from your lungs to talk. And using your diaphragm involves a lot of compression and uncompression of the muscles that are beneath your stomach, or around where your stomach is. And it feels different to talk that way. Feels very, very different. And I'm trying to get used to it, used to the idea of it, because talking the other way, I've heard, is actually, for a long length of time, especially if you're trying to be loud, is not good for you. Like, this is the best way to talk if you're trying to be loud, and you're trying to speak in such a way that people can hear you from far distances, or people can hear you in the midst of a conversation, or people can hear you when you're among a crowd of people and everybody's talking at once. You're supposed to speak with your diaphragm. So that's what I'm practicing. I'm trying to get skills that I don't have. Because obviously, you can hear it. I don't sound natural at all. I sound like I'm reading from like a storybook or something, you know? I sound like I'm very carefully pronouncing the words so the child that I'm reading to will understand it. Like, that's what like the feeling of this is. And it's not like a good show. It doesn't make for a good show if you're just talking slowly all the time. But maybe it is, I don't know. The last one I tried to do of this, I was talking a lot faster and making a lot less pauses. But I was talking too fast for my emotions in my brain. Like, there was a desynchronization of my brain and my emotions and some other third thing. And that desynchronization caused me to, like, expel all of the energy that I had before letting it refuel itself. You know, I find that, like, when you're talking, you have to have a little bit of silence now and then. Or, like, you do have to have some pauses in your speech in order to think of what to say next or whatever. Like, that's something that's obvious, right? It's obvious to anybody who's talked at length that you make pauses and you think about what you're going to say, and that it's not awkward necessarily to do that. But to someone like me, who is not necessarily an expert at being social and stuff like that, it's new. And it's difficult, I suppose. But on the other hand, it's also not. I mean, like, you know, when I actually do have conversations with people, there's tons of pauses. I mean, it's hardly even conversations. It's usually just like one word or a phrase or something that I suggest and add to, like, try and add some kind of idea in their head and let them figure out what that idea means. But, you know, talking in the way that you do during a Let's Play or a Let's Watch like this is a different process. And it requires a little bit more than just a phrase or two. My brain, I feel a little bit better than I did before, because I've tried to record like 3 of these so far. And this one seems to be the one that's the most relaxed. And I think it's because I'm making pauses, even if they're unnatural pauses, or they seem kind of not quite human. Even if they seem that way, they make my brain feel like I can think. And so they make me able to think of things to say. And think a little bit more carefully than if I'm trying to, like, run my mouth very quickly. Yeah, it's a lot more chill and relaxed, and it's good for my heart and soul, I suppose. So I'm watching this game, and like I'm really liking the frame rate, because the frame rate is like one of the most important things to me. A lot more important than graphics, right? Like, I would prefer, even like on YouTube or something, I would prefer to watch a webcam video that had like 30 frames per second and was smooth, but like really low quality or really low, like bad lighting or something like that, than watch like a video that has like 10 frame rates sometimes, and like the frames are like choppy and everything, and have it be like 100% HD. I can't stand low frame rates. They're awful. They're the worst. But this game, or this footage, looks like it was recorded by some dude who knows what he's doing, because there's no drop in the frame rates. I'm not seeing that many dropped frames. I'm sure there are dropped frames, but I'm not seeing that many. And I think this is a video that comes from Longplays or something like that, longplays.org. I think they lost that URL and now it's longplays.eu. But it comes from that URL and that website, and I think you're supposed to like submit long plays to this website for them to like archive. It's like an archive of game experiences in video format or something, you know. And I think you're supposed to play it on the actual console. So this is footage from the actual console, I'm pretty sure. Like it's a capture card. This guy went through the trouble, or girl, I don't know, could be a girl, went through the trouble of buying a capture card, making sure that it worked, and plugging it in, setting it up, and like it's a pretty decent capture card too, because I've used those USB ones. That's like the cheapest capture card that you can get is a USB one. I've used those before. They don't look like this. They drop frames all the time, and they hardly work, and the footage looks very blurry on them. But this footage is very clear and good looking, so I like it. It's a good frame rate. It's nice. And that's all I have to say about that. This is a hallway type game, definitely inspired by Crash Bandicoot and games of that ilk. And I already talked about that though, that it's from the era where they couldn't quite figure out how to do 3D. And there's not much else to say about this game, really. The graphics look a lot nicer than the one on the PlayStation, I think. And that's odd, because usually the Nintendo 64 has the worst graphics and worst textures. But there's just something about like Nintendo 64 graphics. It might just be that the Nintendo 64 was not the console that I had as a kid. I actually had a PlayStation. And so, but I wanted to have a Nintendo 64 because the one game that I ever wanted to play was Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And that was only available on the N64. And so was like Super Smash Bros. All the cool games that I thought were cool were the ones that were available on the N64. So I like constantly wanted, whenever I had a chance to play an N64, like when I went over to my cousin's house or whatever, I would just do it as long as I could. And so the graphics have like an emotional effect on me and make me feel like happy, like I felt as a child when I was playing the games that I really wanted to play or whatever. Even if they're worse on a technical standpoint from the PlayStation graphics. There's kind of like a smoothness to these textures. Like, because they're lower fidelity, they look a little less scraggly, which is nice. It's actually pleasant. It's like, it makes me think of the game, what was that? World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft has kind of like these slightly blurry textures, but they use the blurriness of the textures to their advantage and make it look like they use it as kind of like part of the art style and make it look real nice. It's like very pleasant to look at. And also, as a bonus, it runs on any computer. And so yeah, I like the look of it. But also, like, this isn't the best looking game, but it's pretty decent. And yeah, it looks better than the PlayStation version. I think the colors are a little less bright, so it looks like Donald actually fits into this world. Like he actually is a realistic character put into this world. Now, when I think about that, like what I just said about that, that was like a thing that people were complaining about a lot when the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 first came out. Because back then, they went too far in the direction of no colors, and like pretty much every reviewer and every person, like the whole meme about it was that it was like every game or every realistic game was gray. Their idea of realism was gray and brown. If you remember games like, what was that Insomniac game? I forget what it's called. Games like Call of Duty and whatnot, they all looked kind of brownish, and like it looked like games had lost their color. And this is like in that direction. This game is in that direction, but not quite to the point where it looks bad. It's at the point where it looks relaxing. Like bright colors are nice sometimes, like but slightly muted colors give a more relaxing feeling, and that's what this game feels like. The muted colors of Donald's shirt matching are almost like matching with the green of the background, and it gives me a pleasant feeling. It gives me a pleasant feeling like I'm relaxing and chilling and just watching some video game, which is what I'm doing. So it's good, and I like it. And that's what I have to say about that. What else is there to say? I guess there's not much. Not much that I want to talk about on this format. I also do like a podcast called the Kokino Podcast that I haven't done an episode of in a long time. It's not really a podcast, it's just me recording myself talking about things somewhat like this, but this is more like the Kokino Podcast is more me talking about a specific topic and trying to at length explain it to the best of my ability. And that project was also a way for me to practice speaking, which is something that I don't have that much practice doing. I have plenty of practice thinking and listening to people, but no practice whatsoever speaking, making my ideas clear to other people. And so that's what I'm practicing. And that's what I'm doing. And paying attention to this game is... it's a lot easier than paying attention to... Like, the previous game that I tried to do this with was Jedi Knight Power Battles, or whatever, which was a game that I actually played in my childhood, and this isn't. But that was like, I guess it was too nostalgic and I was thinking about it too much or something. And I couldn't focus. But it might have just been that I wasn't relaxed. I've been trying to figure out, like, there's like this weird, odd inconsistency that I have where sometimes I can very easily talk while recording content, and sometimes it's very, very difficult to the point where it's impossible, to the point where I have to force it and then it doesn't work because I'm forcing it, right? Sometimes it gets to that point. And I have never been able to quite figure out what is the cause of that inconsistency. But I'm starting to think that, like, because at first I thought it was maybe like just the technique, some kind of technique, like some kind of way that I'm approaching it or something. But after going through a bunch of ways of approaching things and like discovering new ideas of how you're supposed to approach things, like you gotta, like ideas like you shouldn't have to think about what you say. You just kind of, like, it doesn't matter if you say something that's dumb or if it's something that doesn't make sense, and you shouldn't worry so much about that, like that kind of stuff, right? Or, just think about if you have a mission, like if you have a plan, then you'll be able to execute on it. Like if you have an idea of what you want to do, like for instance, if you wanted to make people feel comfortable, like make whoever is listening to this in the future feel comfortable, and that was your plan, like the vision that you had in your mind of what your mission statement is when you're doing a Let's Play, then you'll be able to come up with the content better. Like I found out a lot of things, or came up with a lot of techniques or whatnot, but none of those actually consistently worked. And so after trying to find a ton of techniques, I decided that maybe I should look at something else, like the way that always, like the outside of the actual, like techniques inside of the Let's Play, like while I'm doing the Let's Play, I'm always looking at that. But I decided instead, I'm going to look outside of it. Like, what do I do before I start the Let's Play? And usually, I've noticed that there's a pattern that usually I'm doing something that makes me feel awful. Like, I'm watching lots of YouTube videos that I don't actually care about. Like, it's one thing to watch YouTube videos that you actually want to watch, but it's another thing entirely to watch a YouTube video just because you don't want to not watch a YouTube video or something, or just because you don't want to face whatever emotions you're feeling right now, and so you're like procrastinating away from your emotions by watching YouTube videos. And that's like, watching YouTube videos in that way, in that procrastinatory way, makes me feel like I want to die. And so I've noticed that every single time that I've ever started a Let's Play, or most of the times that I have started a Let's Play, it's always been right after doing that kind of thing. And it's not just like watching video, it could be like going on Twitter or whatever and reading posts that I don't care about, because Twitter never or hardly ever has anything that's actually interesting that I actually want to see. Or just like, you know, the kind of thing where you don't actually have a vision of what you want to do, and so you're just trying to not take the responsibility that you don't have the idea of what you want, not trying to come up with an idea, not let yourself be bored, but just like placate yourself constantly to the point where you're just a zombie watching videos that don't matter, that you don't actually care about. And yeah, I just noticed that I've been doing that I do that pretty much almost nearly every time before I try to start a Let's Play. And so maybe the reason that when I try to start a Let's Play it fails all the time is because I don't take care of my emotional state beforehand. Like you have to get into, and so like usually what would happen was I would have to like spend an hour trying to do a Let's Play or trying to record something and end up failing miserably at trying to record something and feeling awful about how bad that I was doing, and just like for an hour or two or whatever. But usually if I kept it up for an hour or two, my brain would eventually switch to a point where I was talking and I could continue talking for any length of time. And yeah, that's so yeah, maybe I should just I'm just thinking that maybe I should just pay more attention to the things that I do before I actually start a Let's Play. Like just the mindset that I put myself in. Because usually it's like, oh, I'm going to start a Let's Play because I need to do something productive today, or I need to create something or whatnot. And usually it's like a last-ditch effort to try and get myself out of the rut that I put myself in all the time, or whatever. And maybe it would be better and it would be more successful, or I would at least feel better about talking into a microphone if I didn't do that. If I just, did what I actually want to do. It's weird how you can be driven to do the things that you don't really want to do if you don't give yourself a goal or a mission, or if you don't actually sit down and think about what you want. It's weird how that happens. How you can get caught into the, like, endless cycle of avoiding thinking about what you want to do because I don't even know what the reason is. Like, there doesn't seem to actually be a reason. It's just procrastination feels good when you start it. Like, it's weird. Like, when you start doing it, it's like there's this rush. Like, especially if you haven't done it in a while, when you start doing it for like the first half an hour or something, it is absolutely amazing feeling, because it's like there's this rush of like mental, like I'm free, I'm doing something, I don't know, but then like slowly that rush turns into like I want to feel that feeling again, and then like you keep on doing it even though you're not feeling that feeling anymore. It's like, like taking a drug for the first time. It's like a drug, right? Somewhat, I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's like exactly like a drug. I think drugs are much more powerful, and if I ever got into drugs, I'd probably be in a much worse state than I am now. But yeah, I don't know if I want to continue this whole thing. I don't know if I have anything else to say about this and myself and everything. It's weird that this game is like a mixture of 2D and 3D. Was it because they wanted to make a 2D game, but like the people, the executives were like, well, it's a 3D platform. We need to like advertise that it's 3D, so you got to make some 3D levels. We want to have 3D levels in our game so we can say, hey kids, this game has 3D Donald. You remember that Donald you were playing on the Nintendo NES and the Nintendo Super Nintendo? Well, that Donald's old hat now. You gotta buy a PlayStation. You gotta buy a Nintendo 64. 3D Donald. And then like they walked in and they were like, hey, look at this. It's 3D. It's 3D models, but it's kind of like two-dimensional, so it looks cool. And like you see the backgrounds moving and stuff. And then the executive was like, where's it? Well, you're not walking around in three-dimensional. You need to walk around in 3D. We need actual 3D. And so they made a hallway game because they wanted to make a two-dimensional game. I don't know. Whatever. I don't even know what those things are. The things with the pie chart things with the B on them. I don't know what that is because I wasn't paying attention during the opening cutscene of this Let's Play, of this long play. And so, at the moment, I'm just I'm wearing a bathrobe right now, and it's getting hot. Like usually I'm wearing it because usually it's cold. And I want to feel warm, but now that I'm speaking, because of the nervousness and the anxiety or whatever, I don't know. Just like when you start performing, for some reason your body gets hotter and you start sweating and stuff. And so now I want to take it off, which I'm probably going to do in a few seconds. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take off the bathrobe that I'm wearing. Whatever. That's a little bit better. Now I'm just in a t-shirt, which is fine. I had the volume very low, which made it a lot easier. So I've turned the volume up a little bit, so I could hear what the game sounds like. And it sounds okay. It sounds like a standard, stereotypical Nintendo 64 game. It actually, like, when I look at the frame rate, it looks like it has good controls. Like, it looks like the controls are tight. I can't actually tell, and I don't know if they would actually appear, like, if they'd actually feel good if I actually played the game, but it looks, from what it looks like, just like the frame rate is tricking me into believing this is a good game. Or maybe it just is a good game. The frame rate and the nicely selected, slightly less bright than normal colors are just making me feel like, I don't know, there's like something about slightly less than the brightest possible colors just makes me feel like it's slightly more realistic. Somehow that has like a realism connotation to it. Slightly less colors. Gray, like, and they took it very far when they went into the PlayStation 3. They went all the way to gray, but like, just, there's something about it because that's kind of what life is like, what real life is like. Things aren't entirely, but that's not even true. You know what? Maybe it is true for me, though, because I grew up, I spent my childhood in Washington State, and Washington State is a state where the sun doesn't shine that often. Often the most common weather that you get in Washington State is cloudy skies. So every single thing that you're seeing has like this slightly gray hue to it. And that's actually because I spent my childhood, I'm assuming, is the reason. But that is actually my favorite type of weather. Is like weather that's overhead clouds, not raining, but just overhead clouds, so the sun is blocked out, and just like a slight hue of gray, and also like green, like everything is green. Like in Washington, it rains often enough that the grass is always green. But I recently went back to Washington, and nowadays, that's actually not as much the case because I think climate change is really having an effect. I'm starting to see yellow grass in Washington. Washington, the evergreen state. I know they're talking about evergreen trees, but like the grass was always green in my childhood, and now when I go to Washington, it's like yellow and stuff. It's not cool. But whatever. I like the weather in Washington. I think that might be part of the reason that I like the slight grayness of this game, the slightly not as bright as normal color of this game. Just reminds me of my home, my childhood home. That makes sense, right? It makes sense to me. And that's the only person it needs to make sense to, because no one else can say that I'm wrong. Because I'm recording this alone. You can only say that I'm wrong afterwards, and I don't even know if I'm going to look at comments. I don't even think, honestly, that this is going to get comments, because Let's Plays are old hat now. Nowadays, it's all about Twitch, and it's all about new games, and it was always all about new games. Even when Let's Plays weren't old hat, you had to play new games if you wanted to get noticed during Let's Play, unless you were already a well-known YouTuber, like Egoraptor and JonTron and other people of that similar ilk, Oni or whatever. They can play whatever games they want and people will follow them. But if you were like an up and starting Let's Player back in like the 2012s or whatever, you had to play new games because people would only search for Let's Plays of games that they actually wanted to play. But when Let's Plays actually began, way back in like 2008 or 2006, I don't know, they began like a long time ago. You could play any game because people would actually be searching for the games of their childhood, but there came a point where everybody had played every game pretty much, so there was no point in searching for it. I don't know, something like that. Like there was no more point in searching for it because you could already find, there would be no point to making a Let's Play of any game because you can already find a Let's Play of any game if you just search for it at this point. There are very few games that you're not going to be able to find a Let's Play for, and that was the case even in 2012. And so now we're in the era where Let's Plays are just completely gone. No one cares about Let's Plays. The only people who do Let's Plays are like YouTube creators who want to give extra content, you know, Patreon-supported YouTube creators who want to give their fan base a little bit of extra content. Which, it's actually useful for that, but that seems to be the only thing. I mean, and also Game Grumps. You know, Game Grumps is still a Let's Play, I guess you could say. But it seems like they're shifting out of Let's Playing, and they're shifting more into live streaming and more into other stuff, which is actually a good thing. I think Game Grumps, I think the Let's Play, like, I don't know. I think it would have been, when people look back on Game Grumps, I think it would have been better if they had stopped the Game, I mean, like, just from an artistic perspective, not necessarily from a business perspective. From a business perspective, they're still extremely successful, but from an artistic perspective, I think if they had stopped back in like 2014 or something, or maybe 2015, then their legacy and the content that they had made would have been like consistently good. But now it's kind of like sometimes mediocre and sometimes good, but not all the time good like it was before. And it's not like I don't watch Game Grumps anymore. It's just, I don't know, it just feels like there's no point. And it might just be that I'm just tired of watching Let's Plays in general, or I don't know. Eventually, but Let's Plays are like, there's a half-life or whatever to like the interest that people have in Let's Plays, and the interest that people have in anything, and half-life was like, oh, well, I'm getting a call, so I guess I have to answer a call. Well, that was a call. My mom called me. And that didn't take too long, so that was good. But whatever. That took me out of the groove. Oh, this is an interesting level. I actually really like the feel and the colors of this level. It feels like, I don't know, something about these colors. It just feels good to look at. They've succeeded in an aesthetic way somehow. And that's cool. I like it. Yeah, there's not much else I can say about this game, is there? I've already said that phrase probably at least 3 or 4 times at this point. Well, that's okay. This is practice. And practice makes perfect. And you gotta understand that you know, you're gonna say dumb stuff if you're recording yourself live in front of a microphone for hours on end or whatever. You're always gonna say dumb. Like, it's like you can't avoid it. And sometimes, like, that's the only way that you can really learn how to say good stuff, is to say dumb stuff and to figure out what stuff is bad or is dumb and doesn't work. You figure out what doesn't work and then you avoid that, because, like, when you find out when you actually say something and it doesn't work, especially in like social situations, when you say something that doesn't work, you remember how it feels, and you avoid it like the plague the next time. And yeah, I think whatever stuff about confidence, random phrase about insert random phrase about confidence, whatever else. I don't have anything else to say though, man. I wish I had more to say. I wish I could entertain you guys for a longer time. I'm gonna see if I can make it to the end of this video talking about whatever, and it might just be gibberish like it is now, but you know, you get what you can do, and whatever capabilities you have to increase your skills somehow, and the only way how is practice, and practice makes perfect and whatnot. I don't know. Keep on saying random phrases that, you know, random, what is that word? Like, my brain is not thinking of words today. Platitudes. I just say random platitudes, because the thing about platitudes is, even though they've been said all the time and people, like, don't ever listen, like, say, like, oh, well, people have already said that, we already know that. People don't follow them, right? You know, you just get up, clean your room, do stuff, like, just simple stuff, right? If you don't want people to think that you're a liar, don't lie to people. You know, simple, stupid phrases or whatever. I don't even remember any of the phrases. I'm saying random phrases, random pieces of advice that are obvious or whatever. But, like, people don't do them, myself included. People don't follow advice. And so they say, well, that's how we already know that. Why would you say that? That's dumb. It's old hat and nobody cares about it. Keep on using the phrase old hat. I have no clue why. I think I just like it. Something about it. Something about the phrase old hat. It's just the best way to say that something is out of touch with today's generation. Old hat. It's got to be a phrase from, like, the 50s or something. But it's just, it's the best way to say it. It's the best way to say that something is out of touch with today's generation. You don't want to say that it doesn't match with the zeitgeist, or it's not in with the zeitgeist. That's too long. That takes too much time. And, like, to just say that it's out of touch with whatever. Out of touch is a good way of saying it, but old hat is even better. It's old hat, because it has the word old and it has the word hat. And both those words sound great together, because they're both one-syllable words. And when you put two one-syllable words together, it's like you have a two-syllable word, but it also has the groundedness of a one-syllable word. Like, there was this essay that I read a long time ago that said that, like, if you write, like, a paragraph or sentences using just, like, single words, like single-syllable words, it will sound like you can actually achieve a lot with that, and you can get a lot of interesting feelings. Like, if you actually went out and tried to do it, It would be an interesting exercise because it actually creates... It's an interesting restriction and it gives like an interesting feeling, but it gives you like a grounded feeling, like when you have a one-syllable word. It's just more powerful in a way. So old and hat are both one-syllable words, and so that's why I like it. Probably. That's the current justification that I have for why I like that phrase. Perhaps that justification will change to something else eventually, but for now, that's what it is. A bunch of old people in chairs with swords. That's interesting. I don't know. This whole game is aesthetically pleasing to me. It just looks nice. Like the wrecking ball thing doesn't look nice because it's just a 2D image, but all the 3D stuff just looks pleasant for some reason. Maybe it isn't. Actually, the wrecking ball is 3D. The wrecking ball doesn't look nice, but like almost everything else, it all fits together. It reminds me of Sonic Adventure 2 or whatever on the Dreamcast. That had like a similar kind of like, it looks nice, like it looks high tech. There's something about it that looks good, and I can't put my finger on it because I haven't studied how to aesthetically disseminate why something is good. I don't even know if those words make sense together when you put them together that way. I just hope that somehow you could take the actual meaning of those words and form it into the meaning that I'm trying to give those words. Like that's the way that the English language works, right? That's the way that any language works. The words don't necessarily actually have meaning. They have the meaning that you ascribe to them, and you're just kind of using... they have connotations, and the connotations are often stronger than the meaning. And you're just trying to ascribe you're just hoping that the person that you're talking to has the same connotations and has the same descriptions and will understand what you're saying, even if you're just using a word that isn't appropriate, because oftentimes we're trying to describe the indescribable. And when you do that, it's not certain. Like, I don't know, there was like a quote from a book a long time ago that like, something like we rely on taking leaps of faith and like whatever, I don't know, something like that, like using gossamers. I don't know what a gossamer is, so the quote has something to do with gossamers, which is some kind of fortune-telling thing, but it's basically saying that there is no, like, the insistence on hard-headed clarity clarity is not a thing. Like, it's an illusion, like the illusion of clarity. Like, you think that you understand exactly what you're saying, but if you really look at it and deconstruct it, which is what the whole deconstruction thing is about, like, if you try and deconstruct it, you can always deconstruct something. And so, like, the clarity is just the illusion that you created for yourself to not go insane, basically. Something like that. I feel like I'm going crazy, and I don't know what I'm saying. And, that doesn't matter too much, I guess. Yeah, I constantly want to say that this level is aesthetically pleasing to me, even though I've said it over and over. This orange looks great with that purple. Like, there must have been someone who thought about these colors, who actually knew how to make colors look good together, because these colors all look great together, and they give a great, like, they evoke the feeling that you want, the horror kind of feeling, but it's just cartoonish enough to not be scary, right? It's good. It's pleasant, it's nice, and I like it. And I feel like whoever they hired to do the colors really knew their stuff. Whoever they hired to do the art direction of this game was a genius, and was really good at making colors work together. That's what I gotta say about it. But there's nothing else I can say about it besides that. It's all up in the air. Just like that chandelier. All my thoughts, they're all gone now. Like, they've all disappeared, and I'm gonna have to go out into, like, the forest and search for more. Because, like, they're all, as I would say, the phrase that I would use, old hat, they're all old hat now. I need to find some brand new stuff, brand new ideas to soak into my mind And then I need to go through the process of actually regurgitating those ideas. That's a gross way of saying it, but regurgitating those ideas and recontextualizing them, and then once I understand them, telling them, regurgitating them to other people. Right? That's the way you actually learn something fully. And that's something that I have learned at this point. Like the best way to actually learn something to the point where you actually understand it is to teach someone else about that thing. Which is something that, like, I've learned a lot of concepts, like, about, like, economics and history, but I never actually told anyone about the things that I've learned. Tried to teach other people or tried to inform other people about them. And so I don't remember any of them. I think that when you actually teach someone something, it makes you remember that thing a lot better. It could be wrong, though. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. But whatever. I don't know. I don't care. Just throwing out theories and stuff. What else do I have to say? Nothing, man. This game is aesthetically really, really good, well designed, and I really like it. Just like the look of these roofs is so well thought out. I don't know why. Like, I just can't understand why a Donald Duck game is so well thought out and aesthetically pleasing. Like, it doesn't make sense. Usually, licensed games look awful and play awful, but this game looks great, and it looks like it plays great. It's just baffling to me. It doesn't make any sense. I guess it's just something cool. It's cool, and it's okay. Do I have anything else to say? Like, I don't think that I'm gonna make... I mean, I could keep talking probably forever, but the things I'm gonna say are gonna constantly be more and more nonsensical as time goes on, you know? I'm gonna run out of things. Like, maybe that's an important lesson too. I need to run out of things to say and just experience what that feels like. I don't know. The music is okay. I wouldn't say the music is the best, but it's not awful either. I want to compliment the colors over and over again because it just looks so great together. Why am I so obsessed with the colors of this game? It's because I can't think of anything else to say. And they're really, really well thought out, and it's not, I don't know, whatever. So it's raining in this game. I come from a family of people who, at least half of them like the rain better than they like the sun. And so, to me, a person who, I don't necessarily like the rain, I like like I said, the weather of Washington, which is, just cloud-covered skies, overcast skies, so you don't have the sun, the blaring sun shining directly in your face, and you can look in all directions without having to squint, right? I like that kind of weather, but like some of my family likes it to rain, but I don't like sunlight, and like that's a normal thing to like. Everybody, it seems like most people of the world really do like sunlight. Like, they enjoy being in the sun, and they enjoy, like, sunlight just makes them actually feel happy. Like, they need sunlight in order to feel happy. Like, if the sun goes away, they feel sad. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because sunlight doesn't make me sad, though. It makes me just angry because I can't look in every direction, and I'm blinded, and it burns my skin, and I get sunburn, and I don't know, just a lot of stuff. And so, what else can I talk about? I've talked about all the topics that I have on my brain, and there's nothing else. That character, the witch or wizard mage character or whatever, I've seen her before. That's all I can say. I don't know. I know of her, but she is not memorable enough that I know anything about her other than that she exists. And so that's like a pointless thing to say. But I don't care. I mean, like, this whole conversation is pointless, and sometimes it's the pointless things that make you feel comfortable, you know? It's just like sometimes not every conversation has to be this deep and meaningful philosophical exploration or whatever. Now, I'm not saying that philosophical conversations are dull or dumb. I love philosophical conversations, but also I like conversations about nothing. The conversations about nothing are fun too. And I wouldn't harp on them as being bad. See, I've never used the phrase harp on, and I don't know if that in and of itself has the negative connotations, or if you have to add the negative connotations with like a word like bad to it. And I feel insecure in my not knowledge of that. Like, harp on as a phrase seems like, yeah, it already has bad connotations, but I felt insecure in saying harp on because I don't know for sure that it necessarily automatically has bad connotations, and so I added that extra word to it. I added that extra phrase or whatever. Harp on in a way that is bad. I don't know. I don't remember what I said. But, this game looks great. That's all I can say. This game looks great. It looks great. The color of the sorceress, the evil sorceress girl's robe looks cool too. It all just fits. All the colors just fit perfectly with each other. It's great. It's wonderful. I feel like playing this game because of how good the colors look. Jeez. Maybe I will play this game. Just to see if it's like... see if the mechanics are good.
Oh, defeated by Donald Duck. What bad luck.
What bad luck indeed. Uh-oh. Okay, I thought the video crashed for a second, but looks like that's just the Nintendo 64 loading. Nintendo 64 is supposed to load things instantaneously, isn't it? Or pretty much instantaneously, like it doesn't take that long? That was supposed to be like its advantage over the PS1. Because, yeah, the memories of my childhood, a lot of the memories of playing video games are of loading screens, because the PS1 was notoriously bad for how many loading screens that it had. But, yeah, you just get over it, I guess. You're just like, okay, well, I'll just wait here for it to load. PS2 is like that, too, actually. And, you know, any disc system. But the PS1 was, like, really bad about it. Because it would load, and you'd hear, like, the disc scratching around. It would like make that noise or whatever as it was loading, so you knew it was loading, but it would take forever, and sometimes you would worry because like sometimes the disc you were playing on had a few scratches on it, and you would worry about whether or not it would actually finish loading. That was like my childhood, just worrying about whether or not something would finish loading. And sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes it would finish loading, but the music would be kind of messed up, because it couldn't load all of the music or all of the sound bites or whatever for the music. So the music would occasionally like stop or jitter while the gameplay would be fine. And then sometimes the music would just like, as it goes through the jittering, it would just stop. And then it would come back and then it would stop. It was a strange time to be alive, the time of loading screens. I guess there's still loading screens nowadays, but they try to hide them. They try to find ways to avoid them. I remember in like a video that I watched about Optimus. Optimus. What is it called? The game with Samus. What's that called? I forget what it's called. Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime. I wanted to say Optimus Prime because the word Prime was in there, but it's Metroid Prime. There was a video that I never actually played the game, but I watched a video about it explaining how they managed to avoid showing any loading screens by putting you into these long hallways where you would wait or like waiting extra long for a door to open, when a door wouldn't, or whatever. And it was clever. And I guess people are using those kinds of tricks more and more nowadays as technology gets better. Because you're always going to have to load on some level, and it's always going to take some amount of time. But shortening that, or finding ways to build around that, is, I don't know, part of game design. Part of making good game design, making it feel good. Doesn't have to load so much. And, yeah, that's what I gotta say. Man, there's not even that much time left, but I don't really have anything to say. I mean, I haven't had anything to say for the whole amount of this Let's Play, or whatever I want to call it. But I really don't have anything to say now. I mean, I've been repeating myself over and over again about how good the colors look in this. That's all that I've been able to say. Like, these colors look great. These colors look great. And the design of the textures looks great, and they all look good together. Like, what is the film phrase for it? I want to use, like, an advanced film phrase to sound cool. What is that film phrase that people use? Oh, it's like a French thing. It's like when you say like a bunch of directors, all the movies they made, you don't say like all the movies they made. No, if you want to be a film critic, a film professional, you say their oeuvre or their oeuvre, if you want to even be more professional, because I think the French pronunciation is oeuvre. But you say like, oh yeah, Steven Spielberg's oeuvre. Oh yes, Jurassic Park is a part of Steven Spielberg's oeuvre. I'm trying to think of a word that is in that. And it's like on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think, like, it's a phrase, it's not a word, and it's on the tip of my tongue. It describes like the textures and the things that exist in the background, and just the things that make up the general aesthetic feeling of a film. Oh, what is it called? I'm thinking like it's a French thing. It's like denouement. It sounds like denouement. Denouement is the point in the film where you've reached the climax, and now you're just finishing the film. It's just going, like, immediately, like, once all the people are saved, there's, like, a little bit of time left where, like, the hero re-meets up with whoever he was missing, or just, like, whatever. It's just, like, a very short, like, resting period before the credits. That's the denouement of a film. And now I'm trying to think of what is the phrase? It's like, I'll never be able to think about it. Maybe by the end of this, I'll be able to think about it. But I can't think about it at this moment. Ooh, it's like pour de voir. It's like do. It's like a do. It's pour de voir. Oh, it's like really, really on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it. But, you know, when you can't think of something, like, you have to just let it happen and just think about other things, because the back burner of your brain is working on it, and you have to let the back burner and trust that back burner knows what it's doing. Whatever. I want to use that phrase to describe this, because it would make me sound more professional and more understanding of the terms that people use to describe art. The advanced terms that people use, that critics use to describe art. I want to use it correctly. But yeah, everything about this, everything about, like, the textures, the colors, all of it, it's just beautiful. It's good. I wouldn't necessarily even say that it's beautiful. It's perfectly suitable for this game, and it looks good. And it's hard to do that with a game, because for instance, there's Super Mario 64. That game has, like, some of the best gameplay and game feel of any 3D game, and it's very interesting that it was, like, one of the first 3D games, and yet it was able to achieve that. But it has some of the best game feel, but graphically, it is ugly. It looks awful. Like, they didn't think about, like, what colors look like at all. Like, the only good-looking level graphically is the haunted level. But in this game, they really thought about the graphics, and all of it looks good together. And it really reminds me of World of Warcraft. Even though I haven't played World of Warcraft, I've just seen, like, videos of World of Warcraft. It just reminds me of World of Warcraft. It reminds me of that level of professionalism in designing textures. It's just so good. It's so good. It's indescribable how good it is. It's like the lighting is good, and it just feels like you're going through a real artistic vision. I don't know. Why do I want to keep talking about it? Why do I keep talking about it? I've probably talked about it for more than half of this video that I'm making. Whatever. I don't know what else to say. Is there anything else on my brain and on my mind? I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily want to talk about projects that I'm doing or anything like that. I guess I could, but I don't really want to. I want this to be like a conversation that flows in and of itself, and the things that happen are the things that happen, or whatever, you know, like normal conversation. But I want this to be like an emulation of normal conversation. For those of you who don't have the opportunity to have a normal conversation with someone, this is the emulation of that. This is the projection. This is the, I don't know, a friendship simulator, whatever. That's what all Let's Plays are, pretty much, right? I mean, I don't necessarily know that that was the reason that I watched Game Grumps. I think I actually watched Game Grumps because I thought it was funny. Like, it was like the funniest thing ever, especially in the JonTron era. Like, JonTron and Aaron, they just had, like... The good thing about them, about their chemistry, was they were, like, opposing each other. And I do like Danny a lot. I think he's a great person, and I think that he is entertaining and he is funny. But, like, he's not the kind of person that's going to challenge Aaron. He's not going to challenge Aaron at all. He's not going to like say, no, you're wrong about that, or whatever. He's always going to kind of agree and like find a way to like be nice or whatever. And that's actually really a good thing when it comes to friendship. But when it comes to entertainment, it's a little bit less entertaining, and there's a little bit less tension, a little bit less. Game Grumps, I would say, has become a little bit more toothless, because there's a little bit less competitiveness and a little bit less, I don't know, just a little bit less entertaining, a little bit less funny, a little bit less potential for funny, I think, I would say. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. I want to keep thinking about these colors, because it's like there's this pattern of you never have... Like, whenever the colors are really, really good in a game, you never have, like, the standard, like, red, green, blue. Like, you never have those blaring anywhere. Like, they're never, like, the standard colors that you see in every game, or, like, the standard colors that you would get in, like, a Crayola set. You never see those colors. It's always, like, a mixture of, like, slightly off colors. And so, like, there was, like, a Pokemon movie that also had that kind of aesthetic. Like, the Pokemon series has those bright colors that are like bright red, bright blue, bright yellow, bright purple. Whenever they had a color, it was just a bright color. But in the second movie, I think, even the first movie, the Mewtwo Strikes Back or whatever, but in the Pokemon movies, there's more of like a mutedness to the colors, and it's like they actually thought about what the colors would look like in the dark, and it's like maybe they had the ability to hire someone specifically to work on the colors or something, but none of the colors are a direct, bright color. They're all somewhat off. And I don't know, it gives like an air of professionalism for some reason. It gives an air of professionalism, like, because these colors are somewhat off, it means that they actually thought about the colors. They didn't just go with whatever the first color was. Because those first, like, red, bright red, that's the first color that you would ever think of. And the same thing with green, the same thing with all the colors of the rainbow. You just choose the brightest one. That's like what a person would normally do. But if you don't have those choices, maybe, like, it would be interesting, like, to try and do like a color design without having the option for those specific colors. You have to use, like, others, but you have to use like indigo, or you have to use like things that are not red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Other colors besides that. You have to use different colors. Maybe that would make it... Maybe that would be like a good exercise to try and create like a color palette that looked good without using the standard colors. And maybe that's what they did with this game. I don't know. It turned out great, and I really like it. Looks great and feels great. Another movie that I'm thinking of the Rugrats movie also had, like, the Rugrats, the animated series, had these bright, awful looking colors, but the Rugrats movie kind of muted them a little bit. And I know, now that I've thought about it for a little bit, I think I know why. Because in real life, you're never going to see a direct version of that color. It's always going to be colored by something else. Like in Rugrats, when it was nighttime, their skin was a different color, you know? Because they actually thought about that. Whereas in the series, that wouldn't necessarily... I mean, it would somewhat be the case, but they wouldn't... Like, every environment, not just nighttime, like, day and night is usually the thing they do, like, when they do an animated series, or when they did the series. It was like, if it was nighttime, they had blue skin, and if it was daytime, they had the regular color skin, and they just had those standard colors or whatever for every shot. But in the movie, every color in every shot was slightly different. And so they thought about every single shot and what the colors would look like in that specific environment. And so it felt more advanced and it felt more real and interesting, and it looked cooler. I actually really like the colors in the Rugrats movie. They all look great. There's a lot of things that I don't like about the Rugrats movie, but the colors is not one of them. The colors of the Rugrats movie is great. Do I have anything else to say? Because it's almost the end. This is like the hard level. This is like the level close to the end, I think. And it all looks really good. Do I have anything else to say? Donald Duck is a character, a Disney character. And, I don't know if he's the most well-known Disney character. That would be Mickey Mouse, but I've seen more Donald Duck games than Mickey Mouse games. So maybe he's the most well-known video game character? I don't know. Video game Disney character? I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to come up with something to say. Obviously, you can tell.
Do not be afraid. She's hanging around somewhere.
The delivery is kind of off.
You'll never be able to see her again.
I kind of like that delivery, though. Like, delivery from old PlayStation or Nintendo 64 games where they hired people to do it, but they do it in this way that's kind of like slower than someone would normally speak. Like, that is a problem. They would say a line like that, like, that is it. We should run away from that fireball. Like, they would kind of add a little bit of emotion, but it kind of had like this fake feeling. And I like that delivery, and it might just be because as a child I watched a lot of things or played a lot of video games with that delivery, but it like it's an interesting way, and it's not necessarily bad. It's campy kind of, and there's like, it's good in that way. And yeah, this game has it. It's another good thing about this game. I just keep on complimenting this game that I've never played, that I probably won't ever play, because I'm not really a gamer. I just like the concept and the idea of Let's Playing, to the point where I'm willing to just watch a person play a game and talk in order to make content that actually works. Yeah, this has got to be the final boss. It's a good design. This is like Crash Bandicoot feel again. But yeah, it all looks great. Even though the graphics aren't... I mean, it's just... I don't know. I can't stop talking about the design of this game. Even if the graphics are two-dimensional, like they thought about how to fit them together with the other graphics, and that's not often the case with games. It's great. It's great. Nothing else I can say about it. That dragon has a good-looking face. Like, the face looks cool. And you can see the distinctness of the design. Like, you could draw that character, like a realistic or like a more detailed version of that character, and be able to do it pretty accurately, and it would immediately be recognizable, right? It's a good character design. And it's cool looking. And I don't know if anybody's played this game. I wonder if there's any fan art of that dragon in particular, because it looks really cool. It looks really cool. This game looks really cool. Oh, man. It makes me think that maybe it'd be fun to play. I've already said that too. I mean, I'm just repeating myself over and over, but at this point, I mean, I'm gonna go to the end because there's only like 5 minutes left. Like, what? I'm not gonna go 5 minutes? Geez, once you get to the halfway point of a video, it gets harder and harder to stop, even if you're not saying anything interesting. I mean, what? Like, I already got this far. Come on. I gotta make it to the end. Gotta make it to the end. It's the only way to make success happen. It's the only way to make anything work. Is to finish things. Look at that. It's just got shading, and the shading actually looks good, and you have like the specific color. Like, how are they doing that with the Nintendo 64? Like, there's actually a bright light shining on there. Like, I don't know how they're doing this. It's like dynamic shading on Nintendo 64. That doesn't make any sense. That shouldn't be possible, but for some reason it's possible in Donald Duck of all things. Oh my, it makes no sense. But it's awesome. Like, that is such good lighting. You don't see lighting like that in like a PS2 game, and a PS3 game sometimes doesn't have a lighting that good. It's good. How are they doing this with a Nintendo 64? Zelda didn't have this good lighting. Zelda didn't have this good design. Like, Zelda didn't have necessarily as coherent of a look as this. This is bizarre. This is like really bizarre. Like, the person, they should have hired the person who did Donald Duck to do the Zelda designs, because it just looks so good. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. But the colors just look really good in this game. I don't understand. Yeah, I have nothing else to say but that this game looks amazing, and I have no idea why. I'm gonna see who did the design. Lead design, Jason whoever. Artistic director, Mohammed. Art conduction, graphics. Some dude named Mohammed did this. Well, whoever Mohammed is, they should hire him to do all the game design, like all of the color design in every game or whatever. I don't know who actually did the color. I'm not fast enough to read it. But hey, this was a pretty good experience. I think this turned out pretty well. Started off kind of shaky, but it turned out pretty well, and I'm happy with it. Happy with the designs of this game. Were just pleasing enough to me to make me feel happy. And make me feel like I'm actually looking at something cool. And somehow they're able to get dynamic shading and dynamic lighting in on a console that I didn't even know it was possible to do that with. But yeah, it's cool. Let's see, there's 2 minutes left, it looks like. Maybe less than 2 minutes, maybe like 1 minute left. So I guess this is the end of this experiment, this let's watch someone play a video game. I've done this before. I did this with a Super Mario World. That was a 3-hour run, and I was able to talk for 3 hours, but that one is available somewhere on YouTube. I think it's actually an unlisted video, but you can find it. There's a way to find it. If you really want to search for it, you'll be able to find it. But anyways, this was a good experience. Had some fun. Had some no laughs. I don't think there was any comedy or whatever, but had some fun. Appreciated some artistic direction. Appreciated a lot more artistic direction than I thought I would appreciate, especially in a Disney game called like Donald Duck. What is this game called? Donald Duck Goin Quackers. That's like the last place you'd expect to find a good design, but just had good design. Someone needs to get a promotion. Okay, yeah, this is the end, so good luck with all your endeavors. Have fun and all that. And that's all I have to say. See you next time.